You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the International Moving Podcast. I'm Jim, I'm your host, and today we're going to cover everything you need to know about shipping a piano overseas. So whether you're relocating for work, family, or just starting a new adventure abroad, moving a piano internationally takes careful planning, the right equipment, and most importantly, the professionals who understand the process from start to finish. Now, we have talked a little bit about this topic before, not so much on this podcast, but on our main website at sdcinternationalshipping.com. And if you go to the main website, you'll see we do have some social media links. One of them happens to be to our YouTube channel, and there we also have information with some images that are pretty cool. I think if you've never seen a piano move before, it is one of those processes that if you had to do it yourself and you didn't have any guidance, you would probably just be scratching your head for a while trying to figure out how in the world are we going to move, especially if it's an expensive grand piano. But when you see the photographs of the process being done and the crane moving it out of a window, it really is impressive. It's impressive if you're watching people who know what they're doing. So I'm going to walk you through that process in today's episode. So whether we're talking about like a family heirloom type of piano, a prized baby grand, or even your son or your daughter's very first upright, this episode is for those of you who are interested in pianos, piano moving, and moving internationally. So let's get into it. Now, first of all, there's different types of pianos that people ship. And we'll also talk about why moving a piano isn't like moving furniture, and what happens when your doorway is too narrow or your apartment is, let's say, on the 10th floor. And of course, we'll also have to talk about the packing, the custom crating, shipping logistics, customs paperwork, and how companies like SDC International Shipping take care of all of those details. So whether you're moving across the Atlantic, across the Pacific, or anywhere else in the world, let's start by talking about the instrument itself. All right, so let's begin with the basics. Not all pianos, of course, are the same, and so when it comes to moving them, packing them, the differences matter. There are three primary categories of pianos that we can talk about. We can talk about upright pianos, baby grands, and concert grands. Now, upright pianos, sometimes called vertical pianos, are the most common type of pianos found in homes. They range in height, let's say about 36 to 52 inches. They can weigh anywhere from 300 to 500 pounds. And these pianos are popular because of their compact size. But that doesn't mean they're simple to move. Their vertical frame still houses a very delicate soundboard, strings, and action parts that have to be protected. And then, of course, there's the baby grand. And these pianos are shaped like a grand piano, but they're more compact, usually between 5 and 6 feet long. They can weigh between 500 to 650 pounds. And because of their horizontal construction, their legs, the pedals, and the lid often need to be removed before shipping. And then finally, we can talk about the concert grand. And these are the big ones. These are usually 7 to 9 feet long. They weigh over 1,000 pounds, and they are used in major performance venues around the world. Shipping one of these, or several of them internationally, requires special expertise, heavy-duty equipment, and sometimes structural modifications to a building before it can even be removed. And what do all of these pianos have in common? It's this. Pianos are incredibly sensitive to things like vibration. They're sensitive to moisture and temperature changes. And this means that moving them, especially across oceans and through customs, is not something to be taken lightly. Okay, let's talk about doors and elevators, so you can kind of get the visuals here about what's involved in that actual process. And you can visualize these challenges. Now, maybe you've seen movies before. I remember in the old days, they had this even in cartoons where somebody would be moving a piano out of a window and they would have the pulleys and the ropes, and then suddenly the piano cord would break and the piano would drop on a character. I'm thinking about old Bugs Bunny cartoons, but maybe even before that they had that type of thing. But, you can look at the challenges that are involved when you're moving a huge, sometimes, but yet extremely delicate, but yet very heavy object. And the most common, of course, challenge is what happens when a piano won't fit through the door. And amazingly enough, this is surprisingly common, especially in cities like New York, San Francisco, even overseas, Tokyo, where older buildings have those narrow staircases. They have tight hallways, and sometimes even the ceilings are lower. They were built years ago, and there's no elevators in some of the oldest of these buildings. In some cases, pianos are actually brought in through a window or balcony to begin with. And then sometimes that's the only way to get them out. And this is where today crane services are used. Crane services come in instead of the old-fashioned, pulleys and the ropes, and you have the group of men pulling on the bottom and somebody at the top trying to steady everything by the window. And many, it may sound extreme, but moving a piano with a crane is often the safest, most efficient solution. Now, professional movers can remove a window or access point and then attach the piano to a crane lift cradle. In some cases, it's wrapped in padding and then slowly lifted, very slowly, and then safely down to street level. Now, this whole process in and of itself requires permits, insurance, trained crane operators, and at STC, for example, they will manage the entire process for you, including things like planning around weather, maybe some city ordinances, street access, and things of that nature. Now, in many cases, the piano is actually wrapped and crated first inside the building, right inside the home, before it's ever moved. Now, right now, I'm trying to paint a picture of a piano being in a building, maybe several floors up, or at least a few floors up. So the piano would be wrapped and crated right there inside the home before it's ever moved. And that means that the entire piano, fully protected inside its custom-built crate, in other words, the crate would be built right there inside the home, would be lifted out of the window or off of a balcony using the crane. And this would minimize the number of times the piano has to be handled. Remember, every time anything is handled, that increases the potential risk of damage. So you want to reduce the number of times anything has to be handled. And doing it this way reduces the risk of damage and ensures the most secure move possible. Now, what happens if a crane isn't possible? Well, in that case, dollies, skids, ramps, even old-fashioned manpower can be used. And the team, whoever is moving the piano, especially if it's an experienced team, they're already used to this. They'll assess every situation individually to ensure that your piano is moved safely. Let's talk a little bit about the packing part and the crating of pianos, because this is where the real protection happens. Packing a piano for an international move, international shipping, is part science, part craftsmanship, and it starts by carefully assessing and measuring the piano. Each piano is a little bit different, so they're going to record the piano's dimensions, the weight, the shape, and any unique features that may require special attention. The first step is usually a partial disassembly. For example, an upright piano, this might involve removing the front panel and then securing the keys. For baby grands and grand pianos, the team would carefully remove legs, pedals, the music wrap, sometimes even the lid, and then these components are wrapped individually to prevent damage. So there's the taking apart side of it, just like another piece of furniture, except this, of course, the piano looks like a piece of furniture, right? But it's an extra delicate piece of furniture because of all of the parts that are involved in it. But everything would be wrapped individually to prevent damage in that case. And then the piano body and the components are wrapped in multiple protective layers. And so things like soft moving blankets, thick foam padding, industrial strength plastic wrap, corners and vulnerable edges are given extra protection. So the idea here is that nothing is left exposed. And then comes the custom crating process. Now, at STC, they never use generic crates for pianos. Every crate is custom built by a specialist using heavy-duty wood that complies with international ISPM 15 regulations. You can look that up online, ISPM-15 regulations. The crate is made to fit the specific piano like a hand fits inside a glove, leaving no room for shifting or imbalance during transit. Because whether we're talking about a crate or a box, you know that any type of damage that occurs if the objects inside that box or crate shift. So inside the crate they're going to install shock absorbent supports, secure strapping. If the shipment is going by sea, they will also add humidity control materials like moisture barrier linens and other things to protect the wood, the felt, to protect the strings from damage that can be caused by excessive moisture or by salt air. Salt air is one of the killers. If you've ever talked to anybody or if you ever lived close to the water yourself, you know that everything from the paint on the house, your roofing, your cars if they're left outside, your air conditioner unit, everything is affected by salt air, which decreases the lifespan of all the above, including mechanical things. Salt air does a lot of damage. And so the same mindset is applied, even though, of course, we're not talking about something being left outside in salt air. You're talking about something being on a ship going across oceans. So that has to be taken into consideration to make sure that moisture or salt air does not enter into that container, that custom crate, to damage the piano parts on the inside. Then everything is sealed. The crate is labeled and all the handling instructions are there. The directional indicators, so somebody doesn't think they're lifting the top when they're lifting the bottom, or put it down upside down, or on any of those things like that. The shipping information, everything is ready for the next stage of its international journey. So that covers the packing and the crating. Of course, the bigger the piano, the more it takes to get all of the above done. And then comes the shipping and customs clearance part of it. Once the piano is created and prepped, then it's going to be transported. Most pianos are shipped via ocean freight because it's cost effective for large, heavy items. And depending on the destination, you may choose between a full container load or a less than container load type of service. It's also known as FCL, full container load, or LCL. Full container load is best if you're shipping a household worth of goods, or you want a little extra space and privacy for your piano. Less than container load works well if you're only shipping a few items. But for high value pianos, urgent deliveries, or professional musicians on tour, then air freight is also available. Of course, it's going to be more expensive, but air freight will significantly reduce the transit time overall, and it also limits your piano to potential environmental exposure. So there's that side of it also. How about things like customs clearance? Every country has different rules regarding musical instruments. Some may ask for a proof of ownership, value declarations, or documentation stating that the piano doesn't contain any restricted materials, such as ivory or rare woods. I know not too many people are probably going to be moving to China, but I know that China happens to be one of those countries that does not allow anything with ivory components to be imported into the country. So at STC International Shipping, one of the reasons why you want to work with an experienced international moving company is they're going to be there to help you navigate all of the requirements. They'll prepare and file the customs declarations, the bills of lading, the packing lists, and any additional forms specific to your destination country. And if needed, they can coordinate with customs brokers to ensure a smooth clearance process. And of course, at STC, you're going to have door-to-door service available to you, meaning that everything is going to be handled for you, from the pickup in your home to the final delivery in your new country. That includes coordinating with international carriers, port authorities, local agents, everything. And once your piano clears customs, it's ready for the final leg of the journey, and that includes also the delivery and the reassembly of it. Let's talk a little bit about the final delivery part, because this is important. As important as it is, and making sure that everything is done right during the initial stages, then everything, of course, it would be all for naught if it was done incorrectly during the final delivery and the tuning process. When your piano arrives at its destination, then STC International Shipping's local partners will take over to ensure a smooth final delivery. The crate will be carefully opened. Every piece is removed and unwrapped and inspected. And then the piano is reassembled by trained specialists who understand the mechanics of your specific instrument. We take extra care to make sure that the piano is placed exactly where you want it, not just in the room, but in the right spot for acoustics and safety. And they'll even make sure that the floor underneath is protected. And then once the piano is back together and in place, we always recommend a professional tuning service, because even with the best handling, even with climate controls, pianos are sensitive to pressure and temperature changes. So a post-move tuning ensures that everything sounds the way it's supposed to sound. Now, when you think about what goes into an international move, you can see where there are certain areas where maybe it makes sense in your particular situation if you want to cut a few corners. Maybe, I hate to use the word cutting a few corners because it makes it sound like you're not doing things properly. So I guess maybe I should say it this way. Maybe you decide that you want to pack your linens because you're not going to have any problem doing that. That's something that even an inexperienced person can do. But when it comes to things like an international move, of course, you're considering things like insurance. You want to make sure that, God forbid, something unexpected happens, that your items are protected. We're talking about maybe you do have several delicate items. Maybe you're moving an antique china cabinet or a grandfather clock or pianos like we were just talking about. So you want to make sure that those items are insured and that, God forbid, people are human. Sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes the unexpected happens. And, there's no control over it. That's why insurance is available for such events if they occur. And so that will give you that additional peace of mind. But insurance only covers items when they're packed by professionals. And of course, that would make sense, because if something ships from one side of the world to the other and it's packed by an amateur, then the chances are increased that it might shift inside the container, and the shifting might cause plates to crack or glasses to break, or several things to happen. If you've ever moved yourself, you probably know what I'm talking about. For myself, I've been through several long-distance moves here in the United States, and there were times where I packed boxes by myself, and I had professionals helping me actually pack the items inside of the moving truck. And whether you're talking about a local move or a long-distance transcontinental move, you know that one of the things that you'll see all of the movers do is securing boxes and items so they don't shift when they're in transit, because that's where the problems happen. That's where breakage happens. That's where accidents happen. So again, whether we're talking about inside a box shifting, or inside a truck shifting, or a crate, or on a huge sea vessel, you know that those items are moved by cranes. They're going to be touched and handled by customs agents. There's just multiple times where having insurance will just give you that extra peace of mind. Not to harp on the insurance, but I just wanted to mention that because it's just part of this overall conversation we're having about moving things that are valuable and delicate. But like I was saying, if you're going to be packing linens, and those boxes, of course, they don't contain high value items. So if you want to save a little bit of money and pack those, people often ask, how can I save a little bit of money, and what can I do? And that's one of the more common things, packing books or things like that. Maybe that's something that you want to do. But all right, so again, moving a piano, let's kind of wrap this up. I've squeezed quite a bit of information into a short period of time here, but if you've invested in a piano, then you're going to want to treat it accordingly. Moving a piano internationally is not just like an add-on service. It's also, you want responsible people in charge of it. At SDC International Shipping, we understand how important the instrument is, whether it's a cherished family heirloom or an upright piano that you personally enjoy during the holidays, or even a tool of your profession. We look at it as we're not just moving pianos, we're also protecting them. Every detail is planned for, and you're informed, or kept informed, kept in the loop every step of the way. So if you're preparing for an international move and your piano is coming with you, I encourage you to reach out to SDC International Shipping. They'll handle it with care and the expertise it deserves. You can visit the main website at www.sdcinternationalshipping.com to learn more. You can chat there live with a relocation specialist if you like. Or if you'd rather just get right to it and talk to somebody one-on-one on the phone, I'll give you the toll-free number. That number is 877-339-0267. That's 877-339-0267. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it with a friend, maybe even a fellow musician if you're a piano player, or anyone planning to move overseas that you may know of. Word of mouth really helps us reach more listeners just like yourself. You can find links to our YouTube channel and Instagram on our website, along with regular updated blog content full of helpful information about international moving, shipping tips, and relocation planning. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of the International Moving Podcast. I'm Jim, and I will catch you next Monday on next Monday's episode. Until then, enjoy your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.